Welcome to our speech based on Taming application secrets in Banca Popolare di Sondrio. I am Diego Braga, and let me introduce who we are. So, Banca Popolare di Sondrio is a retail bank based in northern Italy. It was founded in 1871, so yeah, this year we make 150 years. So, happy Christmas. And we do have more than 500 branches that are distributed between Northern Ireland to Rome, and we do have more than 300 employees. Our IT, described by the numbers, is we do have 2 data centers, of course, and we do have more than 2,300 servers that are mostly virtualized after some replatforming. And if you are curious about the distribution of operative systems, we do have 60% of Linux and 40% of Windows. And if you are concerned about that, yes, we do have a mainframe. And as a perimeter of applications, we do have hundreds of internet-facing services and applications, and dozens of internet-facing services and applications. And as you can understand, we do have a gazillion user IDs and passwords. And I should make a scary face in this moment. And this is a face of a gazillion user IDs. So, what should be the solution to rule them all or not to rule them all? The first item that you can think is an identity manager. But let's make some step backwards. We are in the late 90s or early 2000, and we do rely on our own mechanisms of authentication authorization for services. And there is no integration between platforms. There are no common policies for users, authentication, and passwords. And so there are some techniques that come to the rescue, like identity management, user directory, or secure sign-on. And so introducing digital identities and lifecycle management of them let us live better with our credentials handling. And so with this introduction of these technologies, we got rid of local user stores, and this was working fine, but only for real user, like physical one. And the main problem is still with apps, with applications. So we do have like a met-in-the-middle issue, but for applications. So we do call it an app stuck in the middle issue. And what I'm talking about that is based on application servers that are relying on configuration files that are based on plain text for connecting to databases, to queue managers, to any kind of service that can answer a web service or REST API language, and of course legacy backends. So this wide range of different application stacks wasn't standardized in the way of how we managed the application credentials. It was difficult to enforce policies because, as you can imagine today, there is password rotation, expiry tokens, and so on. But back in that time, there was no way to enforce these policies. And so, how we live with that? How we tackle this issue like the old way. It looks like it was 1,000 years ago, but as technology moves really fast, this was the old way. So how we handle this kind of approach? With manual rotation passwords, and I know that you do have already some headaches. So how a manual rotation password can be addressed with painful rotation, painful manual rotation, with risky operations that can create incidents because we are humans, we can do some mistakes sometimes. And risky operation could create incidents which for sure grow over time. And this technical debt creates less confidence with handling this kind of password management, and for sure you don't rotate passwords anymore in the future because you don't want to create incidents. And what was another way to handle passwords rotation with and password management for application credentials, to do periodic audits and brute force checks on credentials, which can lead to rotations, but it could be difficult if you do it too late, if the application is already written in a bad way. And a third way to live in the old way, it was the fencing of the access to the environment. So limit the number of users and operators on production environments, and this leads to more difficult activities in case of troubleshooting that is critical for any kind of incident that can happen into production. And as I said you about these audits, the periodic audits that we did, there were further audits on pre-production environments, like in an early shift left approach, but this was still a wrong way to handle passwords and application credentials. And so this was the late 90s or 20s. And now just let's do a fast forward to cloud-native architectures. And these cloud-native architectures that are really living the hype in this moment. What are the main advantages? Basically, Kubernetes was the disruptor of cloud-native architectures because it forced us to reason about decoupling by default, decoupling by design, and in this really decoupled and still complicated architecture, but I don't want to talk about that because we need another conference. Let's move backward to secrets. So secrets in Kubernetes are treated as a first-class item. They are not an afterthought. You need to work with secrets immediately, but this is really nice. This forces us to work in a precise way, but what is the drawback of this? That works only for cloud-native applications ready and environments that are cloud-native. And so, as you can imagine, Vault came to the rescue because Vault can be adopted really easily for cloud-native applications because there is a native Kubernetes integration which we leveraged in the first phase. And this was the quicker phase in which we immediately understood that Vault was the solution for our business problem or for our security concerns about applications that are based on Kubernetes that needed to connect to the external services with credentials. So Vault was the answer to our issue. And so Vault came to the rescue for these new cloud-native applications. But as you can imagine, we do have something that is not yet cloud-native. So we need to retrofit these best practices that we understood with the adoption of Kubernetes and Vault for, let's say, common application stacks and backends. And I can make you an example of what we faced within the company. So J2E application servers or Oracle databases or Postgres databases and Active Directory backend services. So this was our second phase in which we handled the adoption of Vault. And we are adopting stricter policies because now that we do know what Vaults can give us as an advantage, now we can work with policies, with rotating the password in an automated way without the critical manual operation that I was talking before. and this allows us to really decouple the backend from the external services that needs to contact. And we have a next phase which we will start in a few weeks, in which we will gain further value from Vault. Vault can give us an increased visibility on what is happening within the apps that need to connect to other services with credentials. So we can leverage logs and auditing. That is another strict requirement, especially in the financial services area and in the banking sector. And we don't anymore want to write policies on documents and best practices that sticks to a file written somewhere, documented somehow. We do want to translate them into Vault policies. So corporate security policies are going to be translated into Vault security policies, and this will give us a stronger adherence to what our company enforces as security best practice security policies. And we are gonna add also the external compliance policies based on how we handle credentials within our company. And so Vault has answered a lot of requirements in our company. The gazillions of application credentials that were written in configuration files in plain text, even in the source code. I shouldn't say that, but it happens. And adopting Vault, we started in the first phase, as I show you, from the cloud native architecture, but that was our greenest field of our application perimeter. And so we adopted Vault as a second phase into the common backends. And we started with application servers, and this is working really well. And so we leveraging the Vault agent as a technology for decoupling application connecting to the Vault. We do have also a nice way to decouple how applications can retrieve credentials from Vault. And now that Vault is adopted within our company and in our IT department, we are shifting left, as I said, the security policies and working with logs auditing and refinement of policies that can be written from our security engineers and IT engineers to adhere to stronger compliance policies that are internal, corporate one, and external, based on European banking regulatories. Thank you so much for listening to my talk, and have fun during this conference as much as I'm having. So, ciao a tutti!